Banning flavors in this province will only help a massive flavored e-liquid black market flourish. And if you've been following the news in the States, you would know that the entire Evoli scare was a product of black market THC carts. I just want to say that again. Evoli was a product of black market THC carts. This was confirmed by the CDC months ago. It seems
many narratives surrounding the vaping industry argument has been that we are biased and we will say anything to justify an addiction, that we care only about profits and nothing about health. Yet we are failing to admit the obvious bias sitting across from us in these debates, which is the pharmaceutical industry. The smoking cessation industry is an estimated $27.8 billion in North America, of which the pharmaceutical industry has had a monopoly on for decades in Canada. These are the same companies that contribute the vast majority of the funding for the organizations lobbying for many of these regulations. A couple of these organizations are the Nova Scotia Lung Association, the Canadian Cancer Foundation, Smoke Free Nova Scotia. So let's be very clear that while we may have a perceived bias, so do they. I widely used phrases in sales training at my previous job that the fear of loss is always greater than the desire to gain. With this perspective, I would argue that the pharmaceutical industry has a greater bias than any independent vape shop in Canada could possibly have. Once again, a $27.8 billion industry that they have entirely owned, and us small business owners. There's no comparison. This was evident in this hearing today, not even an hour ago, when a speaker stated that the lung injuries we've seen in the news over the last 6 months were attributed to black market THC. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, DiCostanzo, looked over at Dr. Al-Hamdani, I don't know if I'm saying that right either, but, and he shook his head vehemently no, implying that the statement that the speaker made was not true and that the lung issues we've seen on the news are not attributed to black market THC. I'd like to finish by quoting the CDC's final briefing posted on their media channel February 26th. And this is word for word quote. Due to the continued declines in new avail cases and the identification of vitamin E acetate as a primary cause of avail, today is the final update on the number of hospitalizations due to avail cases and deaths nationally. The CDC recommends that people do not use THC-containing vaping products, particularly from informal sources like friends, family, in-person, or online dealers. Vitamin E should not be added to any vaping product. So let me repeat one part of that really quick. The CDC recommends that people do not use THC-containing vaping products. Vitamin E should not be added to any vaping product. I'm not sure if everybody here realizes what vitamin E is or if you've seen it, but it's a thickening agent used in cosmetics. It's an oil. All e-liquids are water soluble. I don't know, I feel like people must remember this from kindergarten science class where you put water in a petri dish and put a drop of oil in it and watch what happens. The oil does not mix with the water. The implication that vitamin E could somehow enter a water-soluble e-liquid is preposterous. But yet Dr. Al-Hamdani shakes his head vehemently no when a speaker suggests that THC-containing products were responsible for the lung injuries. So if you believe that we truly have a bias, all I ask you today is to look across the table at who is lobbying against us and please check their bias. That's all.